Hi everyone, I just wanted to go through the answers for lab activity 4. Technically it's 5.2 since it's coming from chapter 5, but I know that classifying the leg action can be particularly difficult, so I just wanted to go through some of these jumpers so that you get a better idea of the timing and sequencing of the knee extension and when the heels come off the ground, because that's the main difference between steps 2, 3, and 4. So if we look at our observation plan, this question here, so first, do the feet leave the ground at the same time? If no, that's a step 1. I feel like that one's a little bit easier to figure out based on observation. But then steps 2, 3, and 4 are looking at the timing of when the knees begin to extend. So I think that's a very big distinction that you have to be aware of, is think about where the deepest part of knee flexion is occurring and when the knees start to leave that deep flexion. So we're not looking at when the knees fully extend in the jump, but rather when they begin to extend or when extension is initiated. And then looking at the timing of that event in relation to when the heels come off the ground, which is a little bit easier to spot. So I've put a note in the observation plan that you guys have access to. So you might have to re-download this if you have already downloaded it onto your computer. But I put in note when the deepest knee flexion occurs, and then based on when that shift from flexion to extension begins, do the knees begin to extend before, at the same time, or after the heels come off the ground? If they extend before the heels lift off, that's a step 2. If they extend or begin to extend at the same time the heels lift off, that's a level 3. And then if they begin to extend after the heels lift off, that's a level 4. And level 4s you usually can tell because they start to tip forward, like their whole body starts to tip forward, and that's this trunk appearing to tip forward thing that's going on. Let's take a look at subject 3. And I like to drag my cursor through the video because I think it's a little bit easier to find what these actions are. All right, but we're going to look at her jump to when we see her deepest knee flexion. And you can see kind of right around this area is where her knee extension begins. So I would say her shift to knee extension is here. And you do see a little heel lift. Okay, so for this one, if you had said the knees begin to extend before or at the same time, so level 2 or 3, I would probably give you full points just because it's a little bit harder. Her heel lift is a little bit more nuanced as she extends her knees. Based on the book, they said this was a level 3, meaning that the knees and heels lifted, or knee extension and heel lift occurred at the same time. But if you put a 2, I would also accept that. For jumper number 5, let's take a look at his leg action. Okay, so he's just hanging out. His deepest knee flexion is probably there. And then he begins his extension. Okay, or let's make sure the timer isn't in the middle. He begins his knee extension as his heels are lifting off. So he would also be a level 3. For jumper number 7, okay, he reaches his deepest point of flexion right about there. So I think he's easiest to, if you look at his butt movement, that's how you know he's starting to extend his knees. Okay, but you could already see at his deepest point of flexion, his heels are already off the ground. He does have this tipping forward type orientation with his trunk, so he would be at a level 4. For jumper number 9, we see something a little similar. Okay, so you could see her heels, well, she does a little like preparatory jump, but her heels come off there and then she starts to extend. Okay, so she would also be a level 4 because knee extension happened after the heels came up. Jumper 13, wait, am I on the right one? I skipped ahead. Jumper 11. Okay, let's look at this little guy. So he hits his deepest knee flexion there, begins to extend his knees, and then his heels come up. So he would be considered a level 2 because knee extension happened before the heels came off. Jumper 13. Automatically, he would be a step 1 because the feet don't leave the ground at the same time. And then for jumper 15, this little dude, right, we get maximal knee flexion kind of around there. You can see his heels are already lifted, then he begins to extend. So he would technically be at a level 4 because the extension is occurring after the heels lift. But I know that might be a little bit difficult to discern, especially with the pants that he's wearing. Because it almost looks like the extension or the shift, because he's shifting his weight forward, that the extension happens at the same time. So for this one, if you had put 3 or 4, I'd probably take that as correct. If we scroll down to the arm action, what we're looking for is if the arms swing at all. If there is no arm swing whatsoever, they're at a step 1. If the arms swing, or if they do not swing back, so they don't leave kind of the body plane, or they don't move posteriorly to the body plane before they swing forward, then we just say arms swing forward. Sometimes this is like a slightly forward swing into an oblique arm movement, so where the arms might slightly flex at the shoulders, but then they abduct to the side. Or they might swing forward and then push backwards, kind of the opposite of what you would expect to see in a long jump. So what you're really trying to focus on is, do the arms pass the body plane posteriorly before they go forward? If not, then we're at a step 2. If they do swing back before they swing forward, then you're looking at if the arms reached an overhead position. If not, they're at step 3. If yes, and you see full shoulder flexion all the way up to where the arms are next to the ears, that would be a step 4. So we can take a peek at our jumpers here. Okay, I'm gonna go through the slow-mo video. Right, so we can see her arms are pretty much aligned with her body plane. They don't swing back before she jumps, so she would be a level 2 because they just swing forward. For jumper number 5, again, no backswing, they just swing forward. And he's kind of a good example of where the arms might move obliquely, so they move forward and then out to the side. But he would still be a level 2 or step 2. Jumper number 7, similar, level 2, because his arms don't move posterior to his body plane prior to swinging forward. For jumper number 9, arms swing back before they swing forward. Okay, so she's already past step 2. Then we have to see, do her arms reach full extension overhead? And I would say that is probably close enough. So that would give her a level 4 in her arm action. For jumper number 11, arms are in line with the body plane, and then they swing forward and obliquely, so he would be at a level 2. For jumper 13, he does swing his arms, so he's past a level 2, but you could see from here to when he actually moves his arms, he does not swing them back first. So he would be considered a level 2 as well. Finally, jumper 15. He has a back swing, followed by a forward swing. And then for this one, you could see here, and I wish this wasn't shaded, but his ear line is right here. So if he had full extension of the arms, or they're fully flexed at the shoulder, then his arm would kind of follow this pathway here. So because his arms never reach an overhead position, I would say he's at a step 3. Okay, so hopefully going through those alongside the observational plan helped, and there will be, I think I'm able to put a video into your exam, so there will be observational stuff that you'll be doing in your exam. So if leg action and arm action or discerning those things from each other was a little bit difficult for you, I would definitely recommend going back through, watching the videos again to see if things make sense, or you could alternatively do the even-numbered non-guided jumpers and then rate those, and you can always check in with me to see what their levels would be in the developmental sequence. All right, let me know if you have any questions.